podcast. Take one.
Test track, 1, 2, 3.
Test baby, 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Okay.
Could be another T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, we're live, by the way.
Oh, really? Of course we are.
Yeah, so this is a good start.
I was waiting for the countdown.
Oh no, we've upgraded. We don't have countdowns anymore. So
This is the upgrade.
yeah, well, I mean, it's spring break. It's a whole new me. I got rid of the glasses. I'm wearing something different now. So
Sweet.
So how was spring break?
It was good. It was a lot of just kind of catch up on sleep. We didn't really go anywhere.
Hang out with the kiddos.
Yeah. My
good.
wife started a bakery business.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So she's been making cakes and cookies and all sorts
Has
of
she
stuff.
read the e-myth?
No, because it's just her. But I told her, I said, I've got a great book.
Yeah.
Once she decides to maybe get a little bigger.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I was talking to my buddy the other day, and he wants to start a hair salon.
Huh.
Like place of residence for people to have it. I mean, just starting your own business is the thing to do now. So
It makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Our economic system is kind of built around it, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which is awesome. Free enterprise system is the best system.
Yes, it is.
For sure. So
Is my microphone plugged in? Oh, that's the hard drive that's unplugged.
yeah.
This is good. We do not need to edit this thing at all.
No, the bound chicken bound is not going away from the beginning. So, anyways, okay. So yeah, so my spring break, I actually had to play for my Nana's funeral, which just goes to show, like, you have no idea why you're learning the instrument that you're learning. You know, you may be playing for a wedding, for a funeral, for any purpose. I've played backyard parties before. Like, the application of the instrument, unless you're like an oboe player, you might. Just kidding. So
Right.
partially. So play a brass instrument, you'll be fine.
Right.
So,
right.
but anyways, yeah. So I have been doing a lot of other stuff over the break, but trying to enjoy life for a little bit, you know, before we go back to the grind.
That's important.
On Monday.
Kind of sharpen the saw.
Yeah, because it's the last push, right? This period from March until May I feel like is where people either completely crash and burn, or people actually find more pockets of time to do more work, and they actually get significantly better during this time period.
Yeah. I think this is the hardest part of the year,
Right.
personally.
Especially if you're taking AP tests or doing real school stuff, not just going coasting to the end of the year.
Right.
So, but anyway, so we talked to, what was it, like about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago today, about how to win your band placement auditions. Excuse me. And we talked about just being a good person is essentially how you could summarize that entire episode. So today, we're going to talk a little bit more practical. And I would like to start out with your opinion on the more practical, the playing side of how to win a band placement audition, because as we keep going, this is going to become the issue that people are focused on, or at least should be focused on, right? So,
Right.
So you have had success in your auditions?
Yeah. I mean, I've done many auditions in my life, and as a student, for the most part, did fairly well on them, and so I've got some success there. Also, I've had some that I've done not well on, and you can learn just as much from those too. You know, this is you say to yourself, "Hey, I don't want to do this again. What did I do wrong?" And you just kind of try, fail, and adjust. But for me, the audition preparation kind of falls into two different areas. The people that, if you want to separate yourself, from the mediocre musicians to the good musicians, really it's just how well can you play your audition music.
Okay.
And then when you want to separate yourself from the good musicians to the excellent, I'm at the top, that's where fundamentals is the big separator in my mind.
Interesting.
And so, because fundamentals are the thing that take the longest to curate, I think when you're preparing to get into an audition season, you start there.
Okay.
You know, you make sure that your foundation is good. You've gotten all of your long tones, for brass players, long tones and lip slurs, it's scales and articulation studies. You make sure your sound is as good as it can be. Make sure that you're physically getting the best shape that you can. So once that music is out, then you can just, you just go.
Right. So you would start that. Basically, what you're saying is you would start that now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I know that in the professional world, when I know that an orchestra job is open, before that audition date is announced, I'll kind of have an idea. Okay, they need to fill the spot for next season. Maybe it's December. They'll probably have the audition February, March.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start now, getting my fundamentals in order. So that way, when that music comes out, it's just music time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the music. Typically on a band placement audition, they try to find, like, I believe so. I think they try to play to, like, the middle top third. So they don't, it's not going to be anything that only the top band kids can play, or, like, they want everybody to have a shot.
Right.
And I think that one of the most important things is understanding where you're at as a player. So if you're, like, a fourth band kid really trying to get up into the second band, you are probably going to have to spend more time on this music than what a top band kid would. But
Yes.
that is something that you're going to have to because the fact of the matter is it along the way, they've practiced more than you have, or they've worked harder than you have. So now you're having to compensate for that time.
Or they've just played longer.
Yeah, also true. Also true. So for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about my philosophy and what it's always been on auditions, and that's I think I didn't even think about the fundamentals part of it. I think that was something that was already in the back of my head anyways. But it's super important to point out because people forget stuff like that. But for me, let's call it like the handshake of your audition. The hi, how are you of your audition is your scales. So you walk in there, and for me as a judge, if I'm sitting here and I'm judging an audition, and you walk in, and I ask for, let's say, like a D flat scale and a G scale, okay? If you walk in and it starts from the demeanor on your face when I call out scales. Like if you go, oh, I hate my G scale. Like for some reason the G scale is harder than the D flat scale. Like it's not
Right.
at all. So if you just walk in there and you give like a little bit of a head nod, like, okay, cool, I got it. And then you play it, preferably 2 octaves, high schoolers. Middle schoolers, if you really want to show up, you can play it 2 octaves. And that will wow. If you play it really, really well with consistent sound across the register, and then all the way back down with a good, clean legato tongue trombone players on the way down, or a really nice contrast and articulation, and show that you actually care about the scale. You're not just like showing up to play it. And that's going to be just a significantly better first impression. And now, as I'm watching you play, I'm going to believe that you're going to be able to play your audition music better. So along the way, like that initial score bleeds out into the rest of your scores. Mm-hmm. So take a lot of care in your scales, and when you're in the audition room, have a demeanor of confidence, and don't look like you're worried that even if they call something like the E major scale. The only reason why the E major scale is harder than your B flat scale is because you have neglected your E major scale.
True.
So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, to me, scales are not hard.
Right.
I don't deal with slides positions. That's.
I can tell you're not as traumatized as I am.
Right. I mean, you think about trying to find positions on a slide or on a string instrument, trying to find the right positions of the strings and all that. I mean, we don't deal with that. We just push buttons down.
Right.
I tell my students all the time, I say, look, the first being that went to space was not a human. It was a monkey or a dog. And that's because there were some emergency emergency buttons that these animals could hit if something went wrong. You wouldn't want to just send a plant to space.
Right.
Or a slug. And so they would train these monkeys to hit buttons if something happened. And that's all scales are. It's just button pushing. And for real, I personally like to believe that my students are smarter than
analogy, but I love
monkeys.
it.
I mean, it's not hard.
That's golly.
It's just muscle memory.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, on the 2-octave scales, and this may be more of a trumpet thing, just because trumpet players have mental problems. Being a trumpet player,
Okay.
I've got them too.
Certified.
We're so obsessed with high notes that we do dumb stuff to try to get up there.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you how many times I hear trumpet players try to play a scale 2 octaves, and they can't. And they get to the top, and they just try and try and try and try to hit the top note, and they just play these sounds that are just not even sounds that should be on an instrument.
Right.
And I just want to say, stop.
Or I guess we can caution against it. Yeah, I know. Especially like these, like French horns, and just, I'm obviously partial to trombone. We have an entire another partial series to work with, and that we are supposed to be good at because of the trigger. So, like, you guys play, oh gosh, what would trumpet speak be? Like a low concert E would be
F sharp.
an F sharp for you guys. So that's basically where the applicability of the trumpet stops.
Right, everything below that sounds poo-poo.
Does Bizet, does Carmen go below that?
It does. You have to, like, kick some slides weirdly and stuff.
I love that excerpt so much. But anyway, so we have, like, if you're playing the D flat scale, you can start on an octave below. You can play trigger 6th, low D flat, and then that's the start of your scale. So we don't really have to squeak out the high D flat, but our high range is easier to hit than a trumpet player's high range. So if you can play your D flat scale 3 octaves, there's no reason. I mean, I have several students who can play up to a super D flat. There's no reason for you not to be able to play something from like that low D flat all the way up to high D flat and play it well to where it's enjoyable.
Right.
And I'm telling you, man, if I was a judge, and I'm speaking to actually a few middle schoolers right now, if I was a judge in a middle school audition, I heard a kid play a D flat major scale 3 octaves well, I would freak out. I would be like, who are you? Where are you from? You're that's incredible.
Right.
Right? I mean, I would hope so. And then think about what you're setting yourself up for in the audition.
Right.
At that point, you can't lose, man. Like especially that's an implication of preparation on your etudes. Because there's no way you're going to walk in and do something incredible like that and then go, oh, I haven't really figured out how to play this easy F major etude.
I have a story about that.
Okay.
So
you're about to tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, this is why we're here, right?
Yeah. That's how it works.
And I really got 2 things. One is the story. I was doing an audition with Center Stage Brass, which is a group I used to play with, a professional group.
I've been runner-up twice there.
And it was a trombone audition, not the ones you've done.
Yeah.
And we had a person who will go nameless, who was auditioning for the group. And the audition started with a solo. We didn't do scales. At the professional level, you should know your scales. That just means that you care.
Please know your scales if you're a pro.
Yeah, I mean, that is a given.
Right.
So you start with a solo of your choice, and then we did excerpts. And so we had a person who played their solo, and I think it was the Malcolm Arnold. Is that a solo for trombone? Yeah.
Second movement.
It was absolutely phenomenal. It was everything you would ever want a solo to be. It was, I mean, because we had just heard audition after audition after audition of either, it's okay, or that was awful.
Right.
And we heard a few people that were good. And this guy or gal, and just absolutely brought down the house.
Okay.
And we were thinking, this is the first round. This is the guy. This is our trombone player. And then we went to the auditions. We went to the excerpts. And this person just folded on the excerpts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they advance to the next round?
No. And we had this moral catastrophe.
Oh my gosh.
As we were debating, I was like, he was so good. And then, then the other side is like, well, but we have to be intellectually honest.
Right.
And the excerpts were not there. And so we did not advance this person with an absolute heavy heart and just, now the person that ended up winning the audition was absolutely the person that should win the audition. It turned out exactly what it was supposed to. But at that, I will never forget that. This person it's like a person coming in for a great handshake. They've got a great smile. They're dressed great, and then you start talking to them, and they don't know anything. They don't know anything.
That is so strange, man.
It's like a politician.
Golly.
That's all I'll say there.
Heyo, there we go.
You can have
And
several. That's all I'll say.
yeah, so that's so crazy to me because like I feel like excerpts are just standard for trombone players or just anybody. Like if you're going for a professional audition, y'all don't call whacked out excerpts. Like most people don't. Like if you're a trombone player, you'll get like the tuba mirum, Hungarian march, bolero, like just standard stuff. And then I'm sure there's a list for trumpet players. It's not like they're coming out of left field.
Well, so in this audition, I don't think we
where did they
did.
come from?
I don't think we did any standard orchestral excerpts on this
Oh, okay.
one. I think it was all chamber music stuff. So now, with that said, if you've done any chamber music work, you should know these pieces, like the solo Maria and West Side Story.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just one of the things that trombone players know.
Mm-hmm.
So, we didn't ask a tuba mirum. We didn't ask a Hungarian march or anything like that on this one. So
Did y'all do the ride?
Huh?
Did y'all do the ride? Y'all did
No,
the
we
ride
did on
both?
that one. We did no orchestral excerpts.
Oh, so these were all chamber excerpts that he was
All
messing
of them were
up.
chamber excerpts.
But even still, or she was messing up. I don't know. So, okay, and then as far as actually, I wanted to make this point. So let me make it first. So, you should be like, I always kind of imagined myself like a horse inside of a gate. If you've ever watched have you ever been to the horse track before? In it was Grand Prairie, I think. Those horses are so ready to go at the gate. They're like chomping at the bit. It's where that comes from, right? So, and then the gate opens up and they just take off.
Right.
And if that isn't your attitude, if you're like, I'll get to it next week, I'll get to it next week will never ever come.
Right.
You will be until you're walking into the audition going, oh gosh, I'm so nervous. It's like, yeah, well, you're not prepared, so you should be nervous because this is about to not go well for you. So be ready for it. Be proactive in what you can start working on now. I always use this analogy with my students. It's like your math teacher coming up to you with the final and going, here's the final. Oh, and here are the answers to the final. Do with it what you will, and 90% of kids take the final and go, "Meh, I don't want this," and they just throw it away.
Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine.
Yeah. Like I'll just know the information, and then you get to the test and you go, "What is all this?" It's like,
Wait a minute, I didn't know this was going to be on there.
it's right there. That is what the audition is going to be.
Yeah.
Even with scales, like I don't know what scales they're going to call. There's only 12 of them.
Right.
So if you learn
just know
those,
there's 12.
Learn the 12. That's it. So
it's interesting. I think our subconscious is actually smarter than we are because
whoa, that got existential quickly.
that's what I do.
Bam.
So if you're walking into an audition thinking, I really hope that they don't ask X, Y, or Z because those are not very good, you're screwed.
Yep.
Because A, they will absolutely ask X, Y, or Z because they're the hardest things. Mm-hmm. And B, that's going to negatively affect every single thing in your audition because you're going to know I'm not completely prepared. I haven't done every single thing that I can do to prepare for an audition.
Right. Yeah, so with that, the preparation aspect of it, it's hard not to be so black and white about it, but that's kind of how it is. It's like if you want to be prepared, another good life rule, like success is super, super predictable because it has almost nothing to do with chance. Like a lot of people think that rich people get rich by like luck or by being born to the right family or being born into the right situations. Absolute crap. It's just read up on history, and that's not even, you can't even argue that. And sure, you can go, well, I know Jimmy Jim John who, whose daddy started out this and then inherited. Yeah, he's called an exception to the rule, and that exists everywhere. So
that's very interesting. There's only it's a very low percentage of inherited wealth that actually ever gets bigger.
Really?
Yeah. It's like 20% or lower of inherited wealth actually ever gets bigger.
And not only that, but the the income mobility spectrum in this country will show you that rich people get poor and poor people get rich constantly. Mm-hmm. That's just what happens across. It takes one person going, you know what? I'm tired of this crap that my family's going through. I'm tired of this lifestyle that I have to live. I'm going to do something about it. And you take that emotion, that anger, and that frustration. You see it happen in players pretty often, right? Where they go, I'm so... I tell people here at Prosper all the time, some of the biggest motivating factors for people to get better is just to get out of the bottom two bands. And it's not because the band directors are bad. They're fantastic band directors. It's because it's a slow-paced, slow-moving, it's just, I don't know, it's just slower-moving ensembles.
And you know what? I've had plenty of people in the top bands think, okay, I've gotten there. I've achieved it, and then that's it. And they never get any better.
So how do you get rid of that?
I have a student who will go nameless. Actually, he's a former student. So at a completely different school, not associated with Prosper ISD at all. And this trumpet student was an all-state trumpet student in his junior year of high school. Was first chair in the band at this high school, was an all-stater. And at that point, this student said, I've done it all. I've achieved everything. And the student stopped taking lessons.
Wow.
The student stopped practicing.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, the kid didn't make region the next year and was at the bottom of the top band for this kid's senior year. And it's at a school that you were involved with.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk after the podcast.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. So let's go middle schoolers and then high schoolers. What to expect? So for a middle schooler, you should expect to walk in and play 2 1-octave scales. If you want to show up and show off, play them 2 octaves if you can. If you're ready for that, which don't by all means. Do not go, I think I can play G scale 2 octaves. Let me try it real quick. Just find that out before you go into the audition. Chromatic scale is going to be on the audition.
Yep.
Trombone players, learn how to tongue up and slur down. Slur down, you just, instead of saying 2, you say do. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. So
that seems simple. Trombone players should learn to do that too. However, it's easier on other instruments.
Right. So...
And
then etudes, easy. Well,
and it depends on the school. It depends on the school. Okay. Some schools, I can think of one school right off the top of my head. I think Rogers is like this, where they just do scales, and then they do some sight reading.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think the other middle school in the district, they do an etude, or they may do a couple.
Okay.
But I think probably the thing that's consistent for all middle school auditions is scales.
Okay.
You're going to do your scales, expect a few, and your chromatic scale. I think Rogers, instead of doing the etude, they do play as many scales as you can. And
that would be really fun for me as my middle school version of myself. So. And
then I think sight reading is pretty common on these auditions. I just got an ad on my phone.
Love those.
Yeah. And usually it's not ridiculous at the middle school level.
Yep.
You're going to have quarter notes. You're going to have eighth notes. I doubt you'll have 16th notes.
We had at Reynolds, there was like 1 enda, 2 enda, 3 enda rhythms.
Okay.
Which it was like a maestoso piece.
Yeah, it's something idiomatic. And, if you're not familiar with what that means, it's something that is a common... It's a common speak in music. You should look at that rhythm and say, okay, that's what that sounds like.
Right. And then expect sight reading.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean in the sight reading. Yeah.
Right. How do you work on sight reading?
So, that's a great question. In the lessons, I tend to. I do well sometimes on getting kids prepared for sight reading, and sometimes I don't. But I think it's like teaching a dog to swim. You just throw the dog in the pool and just
go make a sandwich.
You kind of have to do that with sight reading. Just here, sight read this thing that's impossible, and you'll get better in the process. But
That's one of those things that we talked about. Is there, like we said, and sometimes in music it's a Nike thing where you just got to do it. And sight reading is one of those things. I was not a very good sight reader in middle school and high school, and the reason was because I didn't practice sight reading. Like simply put, I just didn't practice sight reading very much. We had another guy who is at Baylor right now by the name of Kennedy Powers.
Is he at Baylor?
He's at Baylor doing jazz studies, I believe. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was leading the 1 o'clock at UNT his sophomore year.
Yeah.
Like unheard of, ridiculously good trombone player. We made All-State together. And
that was a humble brag.
Yeah, well,
this guy was awesome.
Yeah, and then look where I'm at. It's like, who's that guy? I don't know. So anyway, he was better in high school at sight reading than I am now. So, and I'm pretty darn good now. And
I think sight reading is just being able to just having enough experience around music to know this is how it works.
Yep.
And so you can just process it faster. It's like learning to read another language. You need to be familiar enough with that language.
Well, you have to go through the garbage first.
Yeah. You need to know what things look like. When I look at this word, it says, I'm looking at words on my my computer right now. I see the word website. I don't have to go website.
You don't have to do that?
I just look at it as a website. Because I've seen that word a bajillion times.
Right.
I see another word that says podcast. I've seen that word a lot. Now, the first time I saw podcast, I went, podcast? What is that? But it's the same thing in sight reading.
Right.
When you haven't seen something, you're slowing down. But when you start seeing it a lot, you just go.
So it's like a battle of familiarity.
It's absolutely a battle of familiarity.
Yeah. What's crazy to me now is when I sight read, I can see through entire scalar passages and not even see an actual note. Like I'll see like something will start on like a D if I'm playing in a piece in D major, like on the Easter gig I've got coming up in April. Like let's say I have a D major scale coming up and it's like 1 end of 2 E end of 3 or whatever like that. That rhythm, I don't even have to look at the music. I can just play.
Look at the first note, last note.
Yep.
The bookends, as I say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you don't see any accidentals and you know the key and you know your scales, then you should be able to play it.
And your arpeggios, scales and thirds, all those things that we hate to work on, you are supposed to work on them because when you recognize it and you can just react and not have to use a lot of brain power to do it, then you can sight read.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's just scales and thirds. It starts on an E and goes up to a G. Well, that's not very high, but you get what I'm saying. It's not hard.
Yeah.
But it is hard if you have to think about every single note. It's like thinking of every single letter in a paragraph. It's going to take you forever.
Yeah, so just get past that point. And I would do like a steady progression. There are sight reading books everywhere for and I wanted to make a point really quickly before, like if you want to know the format of your audition, the best thing you can do is just go up to your band directors and ask them. Show interest in the audition. Say, hey, I really want to do well at this next audition. What's the format going to be?
Right.
And don't think it's like I understand the nerves that you get like going up and talking to your directors and stuff like that. The best thing I ever did was get close with my band directors because they're great counselors, they're great mentors, they're great people. They care about you probably more than most of your other teachers do because they spend more time with you.
And they want you to do well at the audition.
Right.
It's
in their interest for you to do well, right?
Yeah, please ask. I'd like you to do well.
Right. So don't be afraid to ask. Get the formatting. What do you think is different about high school versus middle school auditions?
I don't think there's
besides skill levels.
Well, I don't think there's any way to get past an etude requirement in high school. I don't think I've ever seen a high school audition that doesn't have that. And that you can expect that to be probably not as advanced as an all-region etude, but definitely more so than a middle school all-region etude. It's kind of in between. Because, as a director, you're wanting to pick something that will challenge the top kids a little bit, but also something that the kids in the bottom band can have a prayer of playing.
Right.
Whereas with the high school all-region music, you don't even consider the bottom band kids. You don't. This is for the elite.
Right.
And so it's a little different.
Yeah.
You can expect having a narrow window of time to learn this music.
So it's typically after UIL.
Probably, yeah.
And then maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that.
2 or 3 weeks, and and the directors want to say, okay, how much can you figure out in that little bit of time, and how much can you get prepared, and how musically can you have it prepared?
Right, right. Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is the better the musician, the less time it takes to get to that position.
Right.
So, but that's not an excuse for you if you want to actually move up, because no matter who you are, you can learn it and you can get to that place where you can play it musically. You may just have to spend more time than others do. But here's the deal. In that progression, you will be getting better so that you don't have to do that next year. And the next year you'll be in that club of kids who learn quicker and learn faster because they're more dedicated to their instruments.
Yeah.
It's like, don't look at it. It's just like what we go talk about all the time, the long-term thinking. Like, think long-term. You're going to have, like I said, you're going to have to go through the garbage. You're going to have to go through that trench, and then you'll go out to the other side and you'll be like, man, I'm a way better player and I can learn way faster now.
And you know what? It's also just organization.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an overly simplified scenario. Let's say you've got 2 weeks to learn a piece of music. Okay?
Okay.
And you have 24 measures to learn. You just count it up, 24 measures.
Okay.
Okay, well, that means that I need to learn 12 measures per week. Right.
Right.
And that if I practice 6 days a week, that means I need to learn 2 measures a day. And when you think about that, I just need to learn 2 measures a day. That's not, anyone can do that.
Right.
And then if you want to get even real fancy with it, okay, well, let's say I learn 3 or 4 measures in a day and I get the music learned faster, then that gives me more times to perfect and polish the music. Because the reality is that the last 10% of what you practice in an audition, you're going to lose. Expect it.
Okay.
The adrenaline is going, it's all the performance anxiety. The last 10% of what you practice is going to be gone. And so
Right.
if the last 10% of what you practice is notes and rhythms, you're going to lose notes and rhythms. But if the last 10% of what you practice is polish upon polish upon polish upon polish, you lose a layer of polish. Does it matter?
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
So, I call this idiot-proofing my audition.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
If I become an idiot in my audition, and my brain goes off into la la land, which it does almost every time I play. Hey, that girl's cute. Hey, what did I have for dinner? Hey, it's a little hot in here, or whatever.
Yep.
I want my muscles to just react and just go.
Because you're so familiar with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this, I think that's exactly right. And you should be at a place, what I would like for most people to do, you should be at that place already in some area of your playing. Like, hopefully you're still not really trying hard to play F. Remington. Take that feeling, that level of comfort that you have if I asked you to play an F. Remington and you're like, oh, I can do that all day long. Try to take that feeling and replicate it and copy and paste it over to every part of your audition. Because for me personally, until I get to that place, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like I'm going to do well at an audition. Like, I can't walk in there and know. And I use this analogy,
Right.
not analogy necessarily. I got this from Brian Kalk, who's the professor at the University of Houston. I think this is perhaps a John Kitzmanism too. Or maybe I don't know who I got it from. One of those two amazing trombone players. They said that your goal should be to be able to play something near perfect 90% of the time. 9 out of 10. Like, if I ask you to play this passage, name a passage in an excerpt, name a passage in an etude or a scale, 9 out of 10 times you're hitting the dartboard at the bullseye. Heck, it might even be a Jim Vassalloism. I don't know. I don't know who got it, but I think it's a great analogy, and that's where you should set your standard too. Because if you're at 9 out of 10, you're gonna probably do really, really well. Like, there's
you're playing the
a
odds in
high
your
chance.
favor.
What's that?
You're playing the odds in your favor.
Exactly. So last point I wanna hit here, and this is actually, I'm curious your thoughts on this. If, let's say you're in the top 4, top 5, like you are a contender for the top spot at your high school or at your middle school, but more for your high school. What can I do as a musician to give myself that slight edge, Jeff Olson's slight edge above the other players, let's say the top 4 scores are 98, 96, 95, and 93. What did 98 do that 96 didn't do, etc.?
Okay, so I think it's ultimately I think it's your fundamentals, and that's why I
Okay.
said start with fundamentals, because if that is at the very elite levels, that's what separates people. And so if your fundamentals are right, that means that you're playing with a better sound than other people. And that means that you're playing with a freer sound. You sound like you're freed up. You're not this person who has the shackles on when you play.
Okay.
And when you're in a scenario like that, then you are actually free. It's so funny because when you have discipline to put all the pieces in place, you're actually freed up to make more music.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah,
That makes sense.
It's what I'm reading this great book right now, and one of the things that it said in there is that if you want to kill people's imagination, then just have them think about whatever they feel at the moment. That's stupid. No one ever thinks that way.
Right.
Michelangelo, when he was carving David, didn't just say, well, I just think I'm going to just take off this piece of marble here and maybe something will happen. No, he planned. He planned it all out.
Yeah.
And that's what your fundamentals do. That's what your approach should be. When you are planned out, when you are disciplined, when you have everything in its place, you are now freer to create art.
Right.
It's not what you think.
Well, it's the same exact. I'm. It's funny as you're talking about it. My brain's going out, not thinking about what we're talking about here. It's kind of ironic, but anyway. So I was thinking about think about the first day you walk into a class. What do you get? You get itineraries. You get the big picture plan. Every time you start a company, hopefully you have a big picture plan and somewhere you want to go with it. If you're getting into a relationship, you should have a big picture plan. And what you're talking about here is probably the fastest way to experience failure in any endeavor. Whimsical. Well, here we go. Hopefully, and that should be the whole 2, 5, 10-year plan for almost every major area of your life.
Right.
Should be active all the time.
And so, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So that includes planning your breaths. That means planning your crescendos. That means figuring out exactly what this phrase is going to be. What's the high point of this phrase? That means ironing out style for a piece. Am I going to play? Is this going to be playful? Is this going to be lyrical? Is this going to be sad? Is this going to be happy? Is it going to be angry?
Right.
Every little thing has to be planned out. It cannot be spur of the moment. Well, let's just see how this goes. When that's there, it translates over to greater confidence and greater polish in your playing, and it is that psychological attitude that comes from that. That's what separates the average from the great.
And that's incredibly easy to read from
Yes.
an experienced musician's standpoint, which I'm actually going to piggyback off of that. And yeah, we talked about this already last week. If you want to be number one of the elite, you got to have your reputation in place. You got to be the person who's trying out for SLT. You got to be the person who's always in the director's ear, asking if you can help them. If they're show up early, stay late, that kind of person, that absolutely helps you become number one. If you want to be number one, be more like that person. And then 2, I was going to say that the energy that you have in your audition, which is just I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this, but it would be, so I walk into apartment buildings regularly to talk to them to see if they want to work. I walk into these places and you look around and it's have you ever walked into a place that is just a complete package of just take your breath away stunning?
Yes.
I think that last element of having a start, finish, and everywhere in between, it's just like a breath of fresh air. If you want to be what my buddy Tom Neal calls undeniable, that we got from Brian Cowick, being undeniable, if you want to be undeniable, I think it takes that complete package. Your whole audition, start to finish, the judge can basically put their pen on the table and go, that's really, really, really good.
Yeah, and you see this at restaurants too. The things like, do they have just white napkins or just black napkins, or do they have both?
Right.
And depending on the color of your pants, because they don't really leave any lint on your pants, or the butter they put out with your bread. Maybe there's a little press, a little design on there.
Yeah.
The wine glasses, even if you're not drinking wine, are there little finger smudges on there, or is it pristine?
It's all what's crazy about that too is most of that is a subconscious thing.
Yes, you don't notice it,
But you do notice it.
you do notice
It's
it.
so
Absolutely.
crazy. It's crazy, man. That's a whole nother subject I would love to dive into. But okay, I mean, I think that's a pretty straightforward answer. And this is all assuming that you even give a rip, about the audition.
Well, hopefully you do.
You should.
I don't think people are going to be listening to this if they're not caring a little bit.
Yeah, they'll probably be doing something important like playing a video game.
Oh, Lord.
The worst.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
And I know that we've got time constraints here and all that, but for those people that are not instrumentalists, they're just listening because they're just listening, because they just like us.
Both of them?
I've got some people at Covenant.
Yeah.
This is a shout out to the Covenant people right here. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a Covenant up.
I had some kids that were like, Mr. Addo, give me a shout out. I'm trying to think. One of them was wearing like a beanie. He's like, give a shout out to the Beanie Boy.
The Beanie Baby.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Shout out to the Covenant kids. So, let's say to them, who they don't play any instruments.
Okay.
What can they take from this talk that we're doing right now to apply to their life?
So in life, I would say that first off, we've been talking about an audition here the whole time, and really I think it's all kind of gone to that last point of like, how do you become the elite guy? So we've basically gone from, if you're a fourth band kid, how do you become elite guy or girl, whatever. If you're that elite person, if you are not a musician, I don't care what field you're going into. You should strive to be that elite person. And the points that we've talked about here are preparation, caring, being the nice person. That goes into the industry that I work in too, outside of music. I cannot tell you how much being a good person is worth in the world. It's
Right.
worth millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. So let's say that you want to become a doctor. The problem is not necessarily a problem. The fact of the matter is if you want to become a doctor, everybody would start in the quote unquote fourth band. Right? Everybody starts at zero. Everybody starts at ground zero and you work your way up. In that process, you want to think of basically that you're taking an audition. You're always taking an audition. Every night that I went to go run trash valet, when I did it for 2 years, I was at marching band rehearsal. I'd teach lessons from like 7 a.m. until 5, and I'd go get dinner, and then we'd have marching rehearsal from like 6 until 8:30, and then I would go run valet trash. When I was like, I could barely keep my eyes open tired. I still went out of my way to say hello to people. I still went out of my way to build the company's reputation. I still went out of my way to make sure that I never, ever missed a door or unit. That was my audition to get to where I'm at now. And if we're talking about fundamentals, we're talking about all these various aspects of the audition. If I had gone halfway on any of those, just like if you go halfway on any of aspects of your audition, you're not going to win. You will not be elite.
Right.
So you need to take these principles of preparation, being a good person, being nice, and take that into wherever your career is headed, because that's how you're going to win. That's how you're going to become an elite player in your field. So
Right. There's a great book out there that I recommend every single person read. I don't care what your vocation is in life. It's by Napoleon Hill. It's called The Master Key to Riches. And it's one of the most foundational books on how to get ahead in life. The two, it's been a while since I've read it, but the two most foundational things that you've got to have is you've got to have a major purpose in life. He calls it his definite major purpose. And what that is you've got to understand your end goal. What are you after?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have got to go the extra mile every single day to get there. You've got to perform above and beyond what is expected to you. You come early, you stay late, And the reason being is because you get noticed that way.
Right.
It's so easy. It's so easy to just get where you need to be a little early every day, stay a little later than you need to every day, and just give a little bit more. And it's also really easy not to. And those things just add up over time. And then the last thing is just having a good attitude about it.
Exactly.
You do those three things, you will win in life. I don't care what you're after.
Right. One of my favorite lines from that book is when he says, all success begins as a state of mind.
Yeah.
So you, in the beginning, you have to be able, and this is where people kind of get a little bit like, whatever, but you have to see yourself winning that audition. You have to, Adam Lufkin, who plays in the,
I know Adam.
you know Adam, yeah, he plays principal in the San Francisco Opera.
Mm-hmm.
He started out his masterclass by saying that he had just won that audition, and he walked in at the whatever hall we were at at Moore's, and he goes, I saw myself walking out onto this stage telling you guys that I won the audition. And you may go, well, you know, how do you know? From my perspective, don't question the successful people, right? Don't question the people who have been successful. Just try it. Well, that didn't work for me. Well, it sounds like your attitude stinks. So you should probably check up on that, which is one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about. But I think first you should be able to see yourself. And if you're a fourth band kid trying to move up to second band, or a third trying to move up to first or second to first, see yourself as a top band kid.
Right.
Treat yourself. Walk like, if you want to make $200,000 a year, dress like you make $200,000 a year, or walk around like, and you will become more successful. You'll become more open to opportunities or business ventures that you can start up, whatever. But it has to start all up here. It all starts up here. And that goes, this is not a music thing at all. It is an absolute life thing. And I think it's just the most exciting way to live anyways, because you get out of this just the mundane alarm clock, work, bed, alarm clock, work, bed, or alarm clock, school, bed. You get out of that cycle, and life becomes just a lot more exciting to live.
And see, it's this sort of thing. I know we got camera stuff. We have to. Are you good on cameras?
I mean, we probably got 45 seconds left. I don't know.
Okay,
We'll see.
This is the reason why the most popular major for anyone entering medical school, other than pre-med, is music.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And for years it's been this way. And it's because we are a living there goes Mike's stand. We are the living embodiment of discipline and just incremental improvement, and that's really what it takes in life.
Yeah.
Every single day.
So you can either do it or not, and that's okay, because there will be people out there who do it, and
You just said doo-doo.
do it, comma it. No, but seriously, I mean, there's going to be people who are going to step up, and it's your choice whether or not you're going to, and that's okay, because like we'll step up, and we'll get you a job. That's fine. Just kidding. I love anybody who works for me. I love you guys. Y'all are awesome. So, But anyway, so promotional stuff.
Okay, so we've got a few things that are pretty exciting, stuff that we've mentioned in the past. But check out pursuitofmusic.com. We've got in our shop some shirts that are pretty sweet. We got the Yo 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 shirt, which is very popular.
2 different words or 2 different versions. So if it's actually 1 word.
One is spelled with an extra U, like the British say.
And then the stock Pursuit of Music shirt.
Yeah,
is
we got a
also on
stock
there.
Pursuit of Music shirt.
Yep.
Camp registration is live. We have kids that have signed up already. They are starting to come in, and we're very excited about this. I'm hoping in future episodes, I actually even talked to Ben about this, so maybe I'm spilling the beans early, but I'm hoping that we can have some of these camp counselors on the podcast a little bit, just so you can meet them ahead of time.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and so that way you not only help their students be a little excited about this, but so you know what to expect. So camp registration is live. Make sure you go ahead and do that. And then the last thing is, what am I missing? Upcoming podcasts. We've got some exciting episodes coming up here soon. If you have not gone to iTunes and given us a 5-star rating, we would be very, very honored for that. That helps us get noticed by other people. that are not necessarily closely related to us.
Yeah, and just share it with people, man. Like, no,
Yeah.
there is no like. Well, I have some kids ask, "Is it okay if I tell?" Yes,
Yes, please
anybody
share.
that will listen. Yes, that's where we're at. And that's where I think it's the beauty of living in the 21st century is you can get so much information out to so many people at one time. It's incredible.
And
So,
plus, we've got these on YouTube as well.
right.
Feel free to share. You can follow us on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Pursuit of Music.
Instagram is _ Pursuit of Music _
Yeah, that one's a little goofier because it has the underscores on both sides, but we're there as well. But if you have any questions, any comments, and between episodes, we'd love to get your feedback.
Yeah,
so.
we do want to start doing a Q&A portion
Yeah.
on our podcast where we have had questions. We just haven't got to them yet. So if you have any, feel free, let us know. Shoot us an email at, is it PRST?
Yeah, so the way this works is we had to take out all the vowels from the word pursuit. So PRST of music at gmail.com. You can reach out to us.
We'd love to answer any questions you got. So,
and if you forget that, it's on the website too, pursuitofmusic.com.
Right. All right. Signing off.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Yo, yo, yo.